Okay, folks, buckle up, because tonight we're stepping into a story that sounds like a conspiracy theory, looks like a coincidence, and has somehow ended up on the desk of the FBI. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Get ready for a wild ride. February 2026. A United States Air Force general, one of the most decorated aerospace commanders in American history, walks out of his front door. He leaves his phone on the table, his prescription glasses, his keys, and he vanishes. He's not the first. In 5 years, 15 people connected to America's most classified science programs have either died or disappeared. The FBI is now investigating. Congress is demanding answers, and nobody can explain the pattern. Now, something is happening to America's scientists. Tonight, we find out what. Okay, so right out of the gate, the general leaving his glasses behind is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, and rightly so. Nobody leaves their prescription glasses on a table unless something happened fast. I want to flag for transparency though. When we say 15 scientists, we're working with a list that not everyone agrees on. Now, some of the names belong there. Some got pulled in because someone once parked near a NASA building. And we'll break that down properly as we go. The cluster, a timeline that shouldn't exist. Let's start with something concrete, because this story gets strange very quickly, and I want you to be anchored in the facts before we start asking the bigger questions. Now, between 2021 and early 2026, a cluster of American scientists, engineers, and military personnel, people with access to some of the most sensitive research programs on the planet, either died under unusual circumstances or vanished without explanation. Now, some of the names attached to it belong to people with genuine high-level security clearances working on classified defense projects. Others were included simply because they work somewhere with the word NASA in the building name. So, we're going to do this properly. We're going to take the strongest cases, the ones that actually warrant the attention, and lay them out one by one. Now, the institutions involved read like a short list of America's most sensitive facilities. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. The place that builds the sensors, the materials, the propulsion systems for America's most classified aerospace platforms. Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. The birthplace of the atomic bomb. Still one of the most heavily restricted research sites on Earth. The Kansas City National Security Campus, where components for the active US nuclear arsenal are still being manufactured right now, today. The Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. The facility that has for 70 years been the subject of more classified research speculation than almost any other site in the Western world. MIT, Caltech, the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Now, here's where the story shifts from that sad to, wait what? In April 2026, Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz sent a formal letter to FBI Director Kash Patel. Now, not a tweet, not a press conference, a formal congressional letter. In it, he named 15 individuals and demanded a full FBI review. Director Patel responded publicly. The White House was asked about it at a press briefing. The House Oversight Committee opened a formal inquiry. And when institutions with access to classified information that we will never see look at this list and say, we need to check, that's not nothing. So here's the question underneath all of this. Why now? Why these people? Why these facilities? That is what we're here to find out. Now, the second you say 15 scientists disappeared, every skeptic in the audience is already side-eyeing you. So, we're starting with honesty before things start getting weird. The JPL cluster, NASA's quiet catastrophe. Let's begin at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Because what happened there is, in isolation, the most statistically striking piece of this entire story. 4 people connected to JPL or NASA died or disappeared within a 25-month window. The first was Michael David Hicks, 59 years old. He had spent 25 years as a planetary scientist at JPL, specializing in comets and near-Earth asteroids, the objects that inform both deep space research and, less publicly, national defense tracking programs. And he died on July 30th, 2023. The official cause was heart disease. Now, his daughter went on record saying she was baffled and upset that his name had been added to a conspiracy list. And that matters. We should say that plainly. His family does not believe there is anything suspicious about his death. The second was Frank Maiwald, 61 years old, a surface water and ocean topography engineer. He died on July 4th, 2024. His obituary states simply that he passed away. No cause of death listed, no explanation. The third was Joshua LeBlanc, 29 years old, an electrical engineer at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, a sister facility to JPL with overlapping research programs. He died on July 22nd, 2025, in a road traffic collision. He was the youngest name on the list. The fourth, and the one that genuinely cannot be explained away, is Monica Jacinto Reza. And Monica is 61 years old. She was the director of JPL's Materials Processing Group, which in plain English means she was responsible for developing and testing the advanced aerospace-grade materials used in JPL's most cutting-edge projects. Not just space exploration, the kind of materials that go into platforms you're not supposed to know exist. On June 22nd, 2025, Monica went hiking in the Angeles National Forest. She was with companions. She was approximately 30 feet behind them on a cliff-edge trail. They heard nothing. They turned around, and she was gone. No body, no trace, no signs of a fall, no signs of foul play. She has never been found. What exactly was Monica Reza working on? What materials for what programs? Now, the answer to that question is not publicly available. And in the world of classified aerospace research, the absence of information is sometimes the most interesting information of all. Okay, let's be real about Monica Reza for a second. Now, that detail is genuinely haunting. 30 feet behind her companions on a cliff-edge trail and just gone. That's not something you explain away easily. Now, full disclosure, heart disease is the #1 killer of Americans in their 50s and 60s. Frank Maiwald and Michael Hicks, statistically, not unusual. But Monica, and the material science angle, well, that's where this starts getting uncomfortable. I'll also note that Joshua LeBlanc died in a road accident, which is the most common cause of death for people under 35 in America. Just providing context, Monica is a different category. The Los Alamos factor, where America built the bomb. All right, we're moving into different territory now. If JPL is where America builds the technology, Los Alamos is where America built the power. Manhattan Project, the atom bomb. And today, still operational, still restricted, still housing some of the most sensitive nuclear research on the planet. In the summer of 2025, 2 people connected to Los Alamos disappeared within 18 days of each other. The first was Anthony Chavez, 78 years old, a retired construction foreman who had spent his career supervising classified building projects at Los Alamos. And when you work construction at Los Alamos, you aren't just pouring concrete, you're building the physical infrastructure that houses America's most sensitive nuclear research. You know the layouts, you know where things are, you know things that cannot be written in any public document. He disappeared on May the 8th, 2025. Extensive searches were carried out. Nothing was found. His friends said it made no sense. There were no signs he had planned to leave, no signs of distress, no apparent reason for him to vanish. He was simply gone. The second one is the one that raised the most alarm. Melissa Casias was 53 years old. She worked as an administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory. She disappeared on June the 26th, 2025, just 18 days after Anthony Chavez. She was last seen walking along a state highway near Talpa, New Mexico. She left her belongings behind, but here is the detail that changes the temperature of this story. One of Melissa's phones had been factory reset before she disappeared. Now, people factory reset their phones for all kinds of reasons, selling a device, privacy concerns, technical issues. But in the context of a woman who then vanished from a classified nuclear research facility, that detail sits differently. Her remains were eventually found in Carson National Forest in May 2026, almost a year after she disappeared. A handgun was found near her body, in an area that had already been searched. A third case connects to a different nuclear facility entirely. Stephen Garcia, 47 years old, a contract property custodian at the Kansas City National Security Campus, the facility that manufactures components for the active US nuclear arsenal. He disappeared on August the 28th, 2025. He has not been found. 3 people, 2 nuclear facilities, 1 summer. The question here isn't just what happened to them, it's what did they have in common? What did they know? And what did they have access to? I'll be honest, the factory reset phone is the detail I keep coming back to. Because look, everything else on this list could be theoretically explained individually. An older man goes missing in New Mexico. Tragic hiking accident. Statistically unremarkable cardiac event. But you don't factory reset your phone and then go for a walk along a state highway. That's a deliberate act. Now, Could there be innocent explanations? Well, sure, maybe she was selling it. Maybe she was just cleaning it out before something. But in context, alongside Anthony Chavez, disappearing the same facility 18 days earlier, that's the kind of coincidence that makes your brain start doing things you told yourself you wouldn't let it do. Also, the construction foreman, he knew exactly what was built where. Think on that. The anti-gravity thread, the names they don't want you to connect. This next section is the one the mainstream media almost entirely ignored, and I think that's because it takes the story somewhere most journalists aren't comfortable going. Let me introduce you to two names that, on the surface, look unrelated to everything we've covered. But follow this thread carefully, because where it leads is genuinely extraordinary. The first name is Dr. Ning Li. Ning Li was a physicist at the University of Alabama in Huntsville. In the 1990s, she published peer-reviewed research backed by both DARPA and the US Army that proposed a mechanism for generating a measurable gravitational field using rotating superconductors. And not theoretical in the loose sense, not science fiction, peer-reviewed, government-funded research into gravity manipulation. Now, she founded a company called AC Gravity specifically to pursue this work further. And then, around 2002, she disappeared from the scientific record entirely. No papers, no conferences, no public interviews. She simply ceased to be visible in her field. And she died on July the 27th, 2021, officially from Alzheimer's disease. But her research, the research the US government paid for, was never publicly concluded. The final results were never released. The second name is Amy Eskridge. Amy was 34 years old. She was the co-founder of the Institute for Exotic Science, based in Huntsville, Alabama, the same city as Ning Li. Working on the same class of problems, exotic propulsion, gravity manipulation, the bleeding edge of what physics currently considers possible. She died on June the 11th, 2022. The official cause was suicide. She was 34. Now, here is what I need you to hold in your mind. The same city, the same research domain, one generation apart. Ning Li vanishes from her field in 2002, and the US government-funded work she was doing is never publicly completed. 20 years later, Amy Eskridge, working in the same niche in the same city, is dead at 34. And both names appear on a list that also includes Monica Reza, the missing JPL materials director, Nuno Loureiro, an MIT plasma physicist who was shot and killed in the foyer of the apartment building where he lived in Brookline, Massachusetts, on the evening of the 15th December 2025, in a case that initially raised serious questions because of his work in advanced plasma research, as well as a vanished Air Force General, Major General William Neal McCasland. The question buried here is not whether gravity manipulation research is real. Governments fund it, it's documented. The question is, what happened to the people who got closest to whatever the answers were? Because the pattern of what they knew and when they stopped being visible is not random. Well, this is where I have to briefly wear my skeptic hat, because I can already hear the comments. Just because two people in Huntsville worked in the same field doesn't mean anything. And fair enough, Huntsville is literally called Rocket City. It's full of aerospace and exotic physics researchers. The concentration isn't geographically weird in that context, but, and this is a meaningful but, DARPA funded gravity research that simply goes silent in 2002. That's real, documented thing that actually happened. Ning Li's work exists on the public record. The fact it was never publicly concluded is verifiable. I'm not saying Men in Black showed up, I'm saying silence has a shape. The whistleblowers who knew too much. Now this is what I've been building toward. Everything we've looked at so far could, with the right framing, be filed under tragedy, coincidence, or statistical noise. The JPL deaths might be unrelated. The Los Alamos disappearances might have personal explanations we just don't have access to. The Huntsville thread might be a dark coincidence of geography and grief. But the cases in this section are different. Let's start with General William Neal McCasland. McCasland was the 7th commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the facility whose reputation for classified reverse engineering projects has been whispered about in government circles and UAP research communities for decades. He didn't just pass through that role, he led it. Under his command, the Air Force Research Laboratory was the nerve center of America's most advanced aerospace science. After retirement, he became a consultant for To the Stars Academy, Tom DeLonge's organization, which has been directly involved in bringing UAP evidence to congressional attention. McCasland wasn't a fringe figure. He was establishment all the way down. On February 27th, 2026, he walked out of his home in Colorado Springs. He left behind his phone, his prescription glasses, his wearable devices, his keys. There was no sign of a struggle, no note, no warning, no explanation. He was 68 years old. He remains missing. Now, let me tell you about Matthew James Sullivan. Matthew was 39 years old, a former US Air Force intelligence officer. He died on May the 12th, 2024. Missouri Congressman Eric Burleson publicly stated that the cause of death was suicide. But here is the detail that changes everything about this case. At the time of his death, Matthew Sullivan was less than 2 weeks away from testifying in a federal whistleblower case about UFOs. Whatever Matthew Sullivan was prepared to say to a federal body, whatever he knew, whatever he had witnessed, whatever he was ready to put on the record, died with him. Congressman Burleson used a specific word to describe it: suspicious. That's the word a sitting US congressman chose. And then there is Nick Pope, a former Ministry of Defense official who ran Britain's official UAP investigation desk from 1991 to 1994. He died on April 6, 2026, from cancer confirmed by his family. His inclusion on this list is contested, but his death added international weight to the story at precisely the moment the American cases were reaching the FBI. And on a personal note, rest in peace, Nick. You gave us so many hours of intrigue and fascination from your regular appearances on Ancient Aliens. So, the question here is the oldest one in the book. What was Matthew Sullivan about to say? And is it a coincidence that he never got to say it? Right, so I want to be balanced here because it matters. Now, McCasland's wife went on record saying her husband had no special knowledge about UAPs. She specifically addressed the speculation online, and that deserves genuine respect. She knows him. She's dealing with something devastating. But leaving his glasses behind, that's the detail I can't rationalize away. Those glasses weren't left carelessly. Something happened fast. As for Matthew Sullivan, I'm not going to be the one to say out loud what the obvious implication is. I'll just note that dying 11 days before federal UAP testimony is a very specific kind of unfortunate timing. I'll leave the math to you. The three theories. What is actually going on? All right, we've laid out the cases. Now let's actually try to make some sense of them. There are three serious theories on the table. Theory 1. Foreign espionage. The United States is currently in the most intense intelligence competition it has faced since the Cold War. China, Russia, and Iran all run active human intelligence networks specifically targeting American defense scientists. This is not speculation. The FBI's counterintelligence division names it as one of their highest priorities every single year. Many of the people on this list worked in what intelligence professionals call dual-use technology, science that has civilian applications on the surface but military applications underneath. Advanced material science, exotic propulsion, nuclear facility infrastructure. These are fields that hostile foreign powers would pay a great deal to access. The strongest evidence for this theory is the concentration at JPL and Los Alamos, two of the most heavily targeted facilities in existing counterintelligence cases. Theory 2. The UAP cover-up. 3 people on this list have direct documented connections to classified UAP research. McCasland ran the Air Force Research Laboratory. Sullivan was about to testify in a federal UAP whistleblower hearing. Ning Li's gravity research was funded by DARPA under a program that was never publicly concluded. Monica Reza's specific expertise, advanced aerospace materials science, is precisely the field that UAP whistleblowers have cited in connection with reverse engineering programs. Theory 3. Statistical coincidence. There are an estimated 1.3 million Americans with active security clearances. Across a 5-year window, deaths from heart disease, accident, suicide, and other causes within that population would statistically produce dozens of cases. Medical sociologist Robert Bartholomew described what happened here as apophenia, the human tendency to find meaningful patterns in random data. The individual causes of death on this list? Heart disease, road accident, personal grievance homicide. These are the most common causes of death in their respective demographic groups. But here's the thing that makes pure coincidence difficult to fully accept: the concentration at specific facilities, the specific expertise sets, Monica Reza's disappearance without a trace, Matthew Sullivan's proximity to federal testimony. The question this leaves you with is the one nobody in an official position will answer directly. Which theory are the people in the classified rooms actually working on? Okay, so I want to do something slightly unfair here and rank these theories by how much they personally unsettle me. Third place, foreign espionage. Because if China is running their most sophisticated targeted operation in history against mid-level JPL engineers and 78-year-old construction foremen, that is genuinely terrifying, but at least it's a problem with a known shape. Second place, statistical coincidence. Because if this is all random noise and our brains are just pattern matching themselves into a quiet panic, that is unsettling in an entirely different way. And first place, the one that actually keeps me up, the UAP cover-up. Because if that theory is even partially correct, we have considerably bigger problems than the FBI. Just putting it out there. The federal response, what the government is actually doing. Now here's something I want you to pay close attention to, because in the world of conspiracy research, the official response to a story is often the part that gets the least coverage. And in this case, the official response is remarkable. On April the 15th, 2026, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt was asked directly about the missing scientists at a press briefing. Her response, and listen to this carefully, was that the White House was actively working with all relevant agencies and the FBI to holistically review all of the cases together and identify any potential commonalities that may exist. That is not a dismissal. That is not, this is fringe theory, move on. That is the White House saying on the record that they are actively looking for a pattern. FBI Director Kash Patel went further. He stated publicly, if there's any connections that lead to nefarious conduct or conspiracy, this FBI will make the appropriate arrest. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer did not hedge at all. His words were, it's very unlikely that this is a coincidence. We view this as a national security threat. And President Trump, when asked about it, said, pretty serious stuff. And these are not the words of people who looked at this list and saw noise. These are the words of people who looked at this list and felt something they couldn't fully explain. On the other side, NASA released a statement saying they found nothing related to NASA that indicated a national security threat. The National Nuclear Research Administration said they were paying attention. Now, both institutions notably stopped short of saying that the underlying concern was unfounded. Then came April the 29th, 2026, the first official resolution. The FBI closed their investigation into MIT plasma physicist Nuno Loureiro's death, concluding his murder had no nexus to terrorism. The gunman had acted alone, driven by personal grievance. One case officially removed from the list, but that leaves 14 others, and the question underneath the entire federal response is the one no official will answer directly. If this is all coincidence, if there is genuinely nothing connecting these cases, why is the White House running an active multi-agency review? Pretty serious stuff. And that's a direct quote from the sitting President of the United States about what started as a social media conspiracy thread. I just need a moment with that, just a moment. Okay. On a more substantive note, the Loureiro resolution is actually genuinely important, and I think it got buried in the noise. The FBI investigated one case properly and said, this one is clean, personal grievance, no conspiracy. Is that the system working correctly? The uncomfortable part is that ruling one case clean doesn't explain the other 14. It actually, and this is slightly awkward, makes the remaining cases slightly more conspicuous by contrast. One down, 14 to go. The investigation is not closed. The signal in the silence. So, here's where we land tonight. 15 names, 5 years, 2 nuclear research facilities, 1 NASA hub. 1 vanished Air Force general who commanded the most classified aerospace laboratory in the Western world. Gone without his phone, without his glasses, without a trace. 1 Air Force intelligence officer who died 11 days before he could walk into a federal hearing and say on the record what he knew. And the FBI, the White House, the House Oversight Committee, 3 separate institutions all looking at the same list and all saying, in their own way, this warrants investigation. The most statistically likely answer is still coincidence. A 5-year window, 1.3 million cleared personnel, normal causes of death in a large population, grieving families who deserve to be left alone and who deserve better than having their loved ones turned into data points in an internet theory. But I keep coming back to Monica Reza, 60 years old, a materials director at one of the most advanced aerospace laboratories on the planet. 30 feet behind her companions on a mountain trail. Gone. No body. No trace. 8 months of searches. Nothing. That is not heart disease. That is not a car accident. That is not something you file under statistical noise and feel comfortable about. Also, Matthew Sullivan, 39 years old, former Air Force intelligence officer, 11 days from walking into a federal hearing and saying on the record what he knew about unidentified aerial phenomena. And he never made it. Or maybe there is a perfectly reasonable explanation for both of those cases that we simply don't have access to. Maybe the FBI investigation will close every file on this list with clean, mundane answers, and the families will finally get the peace they deserve. But here is what stays with me. The people with access to the classified information, the people in the rooms where the real answers live, they're not talking. And when powerful institutions go quiet on a specific subject, that silence is not neutral. It is a signal. What it's signaling? That is the question I'll leave you with tonight. Right, so I deliberately didn't tell you what I think happened, and I'm not going to now either, because honestly, I don't know. And anyone who tells you they do with confidence is selling you something. Now, what I will say is this: Monica Reza's case deserves considerably more attention than it has received. A 60-year-old material scientist, 30 feet from her companions, no body, no trace. That case is not closed, that case is not resolved. And until it is, it sits in a category all of its own. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And I've just started a second channel, Chronicles of the Drift, so please stop by and check it out. Link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel further, I've got Patreon and YouTube memberships. Again, links in the description below. And don't forget to check out the Mysteria Archive podcast, available on the YouTube Music app, which is free for podcasts. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and I'd really appreciate it. Okay, my friends, be safe. And until next time, stay curious.